Could you hear me, Terry?
Let me turn on my speaker.
Hello?
Let me turn mine off.
Terry, can you hear me? Okay, kill yours. I'm going to move over. We go live.
Oh, we're on air.
What?
Hi. All right, we are getting our stuff sorted. Hey, everybody. Now you can hear us on air and live. We're ready to go. We had some technical difficulties with our mics, so I think we're good to go. Hi, my name's Tara, and this is Bill, and this is, I guess, week 5 of our webinar series for Secrets to a Successful Retirement. Today's topic today is long-term care, problems and solutions. So we're going to be discussing 8 different ways that you can pay for long-term care or plan on paying for long-term care. So at Senior Resource Center, we help in 4 different ways. We do comprehensive retirement planning, helping people look out, 20, 30 years, making sure they don't outlive their money. We do tax planning, helping find ways to pay less tax. So we don't do tax preparation, but we just find smart ways to pay less tax over time. We do extensive long-term care planning, and that includes helping people qualify for federal and state programs, without going broke. So preserving those assets as we can. And then estate planning, just making sure you have your estate in order. You can avoid probate. So as I said, this is the 5th of our 15-part series that we're doing over the course of the spring. If you missed any of the ones, previous to this, you're welcome to go on our website, srctexas.com, and go to webinar recordings, and they'll all be there. Also, all of the ones from last year, in 2021, we did a series. They're also there. So, and you can just peruse these next few 15 different topics we'll be going through. I'll be releasing, 3 or 4 each week. So you can go about 3 weeks ahead and register for those on our website. All right, so here's today's topics. We're going to talk about what long-term care is, where you get care, how much it's going to cost, and then the 8 different ways to pay for care. If you have any questions while we're having the webinar, you're welcome to just go up to that talk bubble at the top of your screen. You can type in your question, and then we will answer them at the end of the session. All right, Bill, take it away.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Tara and I work in many different areas in helping people create safe, secure retirement plans. And over the years, this topic, unfortunately, has become the biggest problem that most of us are going to face as we get older. Tara and I have helped over 2,000 families with federal and state solutions to get help paying for long-term care. And I've seen it within my own family. My mom and dad went through an extensive period needing long-term care. My dad, unfortunately, had Alzheimer's for 9 years before he passed away. Much of that was institutional care. And my mom, when she was 82, had a stroke and was perky, alert, and bright, but paralyzed. she spent 14 years living in a wheelchair, and much of that was in facility care. So my family is, I've seen this front and center with our own family, as well as helping many, many other families. And what we've come to find that the greatest risk that most of us will face in retirement is paying for long-term care. So having a plan to pay for long-term care is going to be very important to give you peace of mind and to not worry about, depleting all your savings paying for it. So sometimes people come in and they go, "Well, how did this get to be the big elephant in the room?" And uh, very simply, two factors are driving this. The first is longevity. If you read my book, I have a chapter I devote to longevity, and it's shocking that you go back to 1900 or before, and the average life expectancy of the human race for thousands of years going backwards was literally about 30 years. People lived to 30, 32, 33, uh, and not a lot of people got into their 70s, 80s, 90s, or over 100. But starting in about 1900, longevity just skyrocketed. People are now living much longer, and today, if you are turning 65 and you're a man in this country, your average life expectancy is another 18 years. You're going to live to 83 on average. If you're 65 and a woman, life expectancy is 20 years or 85. But those are average numbers. And assuming you stay in shape, watch what you eat, keep your blood pressure under control, visit the doctor regularly, most of us are going to live beyond those averages into our late 80s, 90s, or even over 100. And so longevity means we're sticking around a lot longer. And over that, the longer we live, things start to wear out, whether it's our brains or our bodies. The second piece of this puzzle is better medical care. You know, Starting around 1900, scientists began discovering all of the wonderful modern technologies that help defeat most diseases. And so things that maybe would have taken us out 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, today we're fighting cancers and all the other dread diseases that exist. The end result is we're sticking around longer. And as we get older or live longer, we're incurring the need for long term care. At age 65, you've got a 70% chance of needing care before you pass away. Most of us think, well, I'll live long, maybe have a heart attack or just not wake up in my sleep. That would be wonderful. But unfortunately, most of us are living to a point where we need care. And both the cost and the length of care keeps rising. Women average 3.7 years. Boy, my mom beat that one with a stick. And men average 2.2 years, and my dad well outdistanced that number for many people. And Tara and I see in our practice today, there's a lot more uh, occurrences of cognitive impairment for younger people. We're seeing a lot of boomers that in their late 60s or early 70s are starting to incur Alzheimer's, dementia. Um, and so this is it's something we need to deal with and plan ahead for. And so let's talk about what is long-term care. And really, they look at it two different ways scientifically. One is physical impairment, the other is cognitive impairment. Physical impairment's measured by what they call activities of daily living. These include eating, dressing, bathing, transference, the ability to move about on your own, toileting, and incontinence. Do I need to wear some Depends? When I trigger some of these, one or two of these, I'm starting to receive long term care. The second phase is cognitive impairment. My dad was very healthy and could do all of the activities of daily living, but because he had Alzheimer's, he needed to live in a protected environment. He needed 24/7 supervision through the last years of his life, and he needed medicine management, help taking medications. So these are the two factors that determine. Usually, when people have either cognitive impairment, physical impairment, or both, that's when it's said that they need long-term care. So where do we get care? uh, not surprisingly, 75% of care is received at home. And, this surprises people. We see all these facilities being built up, assisted living and skilled nursing, independent living, but 75% of long-term care is received in a home-based environment. And it's easy if you have a family structure, if you have a spouse, that can help keep the cost down. But if you start to bring in a caregiver and you're bringing that caregiver in 24/7 to assist with someone's long-term care. My parents went through a lot of this. The costs can be staggering. In this case, if you're we see people paying north of $13,000 a month trying to render care in a home environment. Many people, after they say, "My home is too difficult to keep up," they move to independent living. And there the costs are more modest. We see costs anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500. That's a good range. We've seen them higher than that. But here you have your own apartment. You do your own thing, your own cooking, cleaning. You probably live in a senior community where you're around people your own age. And from there, when people start needing more care, they transition to what's known as assisted living. And assisted living means I still have my own apartment or my own room, but I'm probably relying on food from the facility. They're doing the cooking for me, they're doing cleaning, and they might come in daily or several times a week to help me bathe and dress. And so these are good places. We see two flavors of assisted living. You'll see assisted living where they offer physical impairment care, people that need help with bathing, dressing, transference, toileting. And we're seeing an upsurge in memory care units. They are usually classified also as assisted living. Memory care means that's a place where I go when I have dementia or cognitive impairment. And these places have gotten more expensive. We see ranges in the Austin, in the Central Texas area, anywhere from $3,500 to $6,500 a month. And the final category is skilled nursing, and there people need a lot of care. And we typically see prices starting in the low fives up to 9,000 or more a month. And several years ago, AARP did a survey. They were trying to figure out what is the primary factor or factors that cause seniors to go broke in retirement. And people speculated maybe it's Bernie Madoff, maybe it's overspending. Well, the winner, actually the losing category, was paying for long-term care. When you look at prices like this, and you think you're spending five, six, $7,000 a month, month after month, it's no wonder that people do go broke in retirement. So this is a major cost that we've got to plan ahead for and find ways to minimize. And Tara mentioned we're going to talk about 8 different strategies today. The first one is the most obvious. Well, I'll pay for it myself, or at least I'll try to. And the goal here is if I'm going to try to private pay, wouldn't it be nice if I could maximize my income sources, maximize what I have available to me on a monthly basis to cover the cost? And that starts with maximizing Social Security benefits. If you missed our second webinar, which was how to make smart Social Security choices, as Tara mentioned, go back to srctexas.com, go to the resource tab, and there's a recording of that webinar about how to make prudent choices to maximize your Social Security benefit. And as we know, that goes up with inflation, so it's a good source of income. The second opportunity here is create more income. Some people have CDs. They haven't been real good producers in the last few years. Some people are in bonds or live on stock dividends. Some people have real estate rental income. Those are all good sources. Tara and I use annuities as a way of generating additional guaranteed lifetime streams of income. And if you haven't checked out annuities in the last 10 years, they've made some substantial improvements to them. We've got a webinar coming up a number of weeks out called The Good, the Bad, the Ugly of Annuities. And I try to explain where they fit, how they can be useful. But we have products today that you turn on an income stream that covers both husband and wife, and it increases over the lifetime of that, whoever the surviving spouse is, the income continues to increase over many years. And so it's another good way to keep up with the cost of inflation. And the last category, home equity. Most of us have homes that have done very well in the Central Texas real estate market. And we have a webinar coming up in a few weeks called Tapping Home Equity. And I talk about a number of ways to use the equity in your home as a resource to help pay for long-term care. Second option is Medicare. And this one's kind of confusing. Many people think that Medicare is designed to pay for long-term care. And it is, but it isn't. Tara and I call it short-term, long-term care. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm 73. I have Medicare from the government, parts A and B, and I added on a supplement. And that supplement comes from a private insurance company. So, how does Medicare fit into long term care? If I go to a hospital for 3 nights and then I transition to a facility for rehabilitation, that triggers my Medicare benefits. Medicare Part A covers the first 20 days, full cost. That's wonderful. Because I have a supplement, it covers up to an additional 80 days. Uh, you have to trigger the benefit through a 3 night stay in a hospital, but you also have to show progress. What do I mean by that? Well, if my mom, after she had her stroke, she went to a care facility where after 37 days of rehabilitation, they said, Rose, you've gotten back what you're going to get. You're kind of plateauing. And so in her case, she got 37 days paid for by Medicare. If she had continued to make progress, she could have gotten up to the first 100 days paid for, which is pretty nice. But even with that 100 days comes quickly, and pretty soon I'm then facing the cost of private pay. So let me turn this back to Tara, and she's going to talk about some of the other governmental programs we work with to help pay for care. By the way, we use the Medicare time as a planning window. That 60, 70, 80 days you can get from Medicare lets you make decisions on how to protect assets and move forward.
Okay, so VA Aid and Attendance is a great program that most people don't know about. It's a non-service connected disability pension. And the way that the VA looks at disability is you're over the age of 65 and you're non-employable. That's the non-service connected. So this doesn't mean, people get confused and they think that in order to get this benefit, I have to have been career military, and that's not true. It was created in 1952 by Congress, but they were told not to advertise it. So most people just within the last 10 years are learning more about this. The nice thing about Aid and Attendance is it pays wherever you need care. So if you're getting care at home, if you need extra help paying for adult daycare, assisted living, skilled nursing, it's a fixed pension. So it's a fixed amount of money that they'll give you to offset the cost of long-term care. So in order to qualify, you had to have served 90 consecutive days with just one of those days in a wartime window. So you can see Vietnam is August of 64 to May of 75. So even if my service started on May 7th of 1975, that was my first day active duty, and then I went for 90 days, I would qualify. So it's always good to find the discharge papers, or what they call the DD-214, and look at the date of entry and the date of separation, and making sure that there's more than 90 days and then it's in this wartime window. Like I said, you have to have had honorable discharge 90 consecutive days, and just one of those days during a period of conflict. The second piece of it is you have to meet medical necessity. So what does that mean? Either you have physical impairment, which means you need hands-on assistance with 2 of the 5 activities of daily living. So that's eating, bathing, dressing, toileting, or transference, or what they call, or moving about. Or you have to have cognitive impairment. So the doctor said you have dementia, cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's, something that basically means that you left alone, you need to be in a protected environment, and it would not be safe to be alone on your own, even if you could do all activities of daily living. The next piece is the financial piece. And the way that the VA looks at it is they say, okay, your income, you have to be spending equal to or more than your income on care costs. What does that mean? That means care providers. So that could be someone coming into your home, even a son or daughter or family member, neighbor, and you're paying them to care for you, or the cost of a facility. It also can include any kind of medical premiums you have, whether that's dental, vision, your supplement plan, Advantage plan, Medicare Part B premium. And then if you have independent care, so that could be someone coming in and cleaning your home, or someone that, helps make meals. You can also add those, but it has to exceed your income. So it's pretty easy for someone who's single to do this. It can be a little trickier if it's a couple, because obviously a couple makes more money. So even if only one person, so let's say the husband needs the care and the wife does not, they're going to still look at their total combined income as what needs to be spent on care alone. So that can be a little tricky, except for, if there's a facility cost, because those can be really expensive real fast. And then they look at assets. So they don't count your house unless you're on greater than 2 acres. They don't count a prepaid burial program, and they don't count one car. So you add up your total assets, and as long as they don't exceed, this year it's $138,489, then you're eligible. So if you have more than that, come see us. If you feel like, you look at all these things and say, I don't qualify, come in and talk to us or give us a call, and we can help figure out ways to get to allow you to be eligible, whether that's finding wise ways to spend down some of the assets, figuring out maybe you need a little additional care at home or in the facility that we can get that income spent, that sort of thing. So definitely worth a conversation, not just giving up on it straight away. So this year, a married vet would receive $2,431, single vet, so not married, or a widower, $2,050, a veteran spouse. So what that means is I'm the veteran, but my husband's the one that needs the care. He would get $1,610, and then surviving spouse is $1,318. So one of the things that we always encourage people to do is find someone to help you with the application. That's something that we assist with. It's not something you want to do yourself. We've seen too many people try to apply for this themselves, and they get denied. It's a long packet of paperwork, and we want to make sure that you're proving up all your income and assets. The communication with the VA is limited to the mail, and you can call the call center, but they give you very limited information, like it's in the decision phase, it's in the investigation phase. So they can't tell you how long it's going to take. We usually say a window of about 6 months. I've seen some applications come back as fast as 2 to 3 months, but there's no guarantee on that. It just depends on the workload of the VA. Okay, so one of the differences between the VA benefit and, let's say, Medicaid, which we're going to talk to you about next, is VA is a fixed amount. So they have a max amount that they will pay you each month. The difference with that and Medicaid is Medicaid will pay up to what you can't pay. So if my income is $1,000 and the nursing home costs $6,000, Medicaid will pick up the other $5,000. So even if I was on VA, that VA benefit still would not cover the cost of my care at, say, a skilled nursing facility. Medicaid will only pay in skilled nursing facilities. So, if you see out front of a facility, it says memory care or assisted living, those facilities will not take Medicaid as a form of payment. So it has to be a skilled nursing facility. In order to be eligible for a Medicaid, the facility has to have a Medicaid bed available, and that means that they take Medicaid as a form of payment for a specific number of beds in their facility. So as long as they have an open bed, they'll accept you. You have to meet medical necessity. So there's some people that are in skilled nursing facilities that don't need a higher level of care that qualifies for Medicaid. So you have to need hands-on assistance with 2 activities of daily living, or have cognitive impairment, and need to be under a physician's care. So that's real important if you're looking for a family member, to ask them, would my family member meet medical necessity based on Medicaid standards? And then there's income and asset criteria. And we can talk more in depth about income and asset criteria, but people believe too much about the myths based on what they've heard by great Aunt Susie that, had to be broke and she had to sell everything and lose her car and her house and all that before she could get Medicaid to pay for her care. And that's not true. 2 easy rules for the state of Texas is a single person can protect a house, a car, a burial program, and about 50 to 60% of their assets. And couples who have one spouse in the nursing home can protect all of their assets. But you have to know how to do it. And that's something that we do on a daily basis, helping people protect their assets, preserve as much as they can, and then qualify for Medicaid. Another myth is some people say, oh, I can't apply because my income's too high. I read on the web that the income was, the limit was 25, 23, and my income's 3,000. Well, that's not also true, because there's a way around that where you have to set up a special trust account called a qualified income trust. And then once you do that and you learn how to use it properly, the state will allow you to get through even having higher than the limit. The other myth is, I'm going to have poor care. I'm going to be in this really creepy, gross, facility. And that's not true. Pretty much, I would say 95% of all skilled nursing facilities in the state of Texas will take Medicaid as a form of payment. And you will never see a special wing for Medicaid, a special room for Medicaid. There were too many lawsuits back 10, 20 years ago for senior discrimination, the staff treating the residents differently based on their pay. And that doesn't happen anymore. So it's just a matter of deciding which facility you feel your family member is going to get the best care. People say, I can give away my assets and get on Medicaid. Yes and no. So that's a good conversation to have with us about. You can do it. You just have to do it in the right way. And lastly, people say, I'm going to lose my house. And again, we can help you to protect your home. If you're in a spouse situation, the spouse is the number one protection on the home. But, you never know what will happen. That spouse that's living at home could possibly die before the spouse in the nursing home. So we want to protect the house with what we call a special warranty deed. And we can have a conversation about that. Again, just like VA, Medicaid is not a do-it-yourself. Definitely hire someone like us or have the facility help you to make sure you're doing it right, because it's just too much of a strenuous process. The process goes on for too long to then not be eligible and then have to pay privately because, you didn't provide a statement or you didn't get something in on time or whatever the situation was. The state talks to families by mail, so it's very hard to get in touch with the caseworker. So again, someone like us, we can help provide that service to be the liaison between the state and the family. And the time frame, most cases are supposed to be finished in 45 days. And that's the hope. But no matter what, we've been doing this for almost 20 years and we've never had a case turned down. So if you need help with that, that's another way to help pay for long-term care. And we call Medicaid the Great Safety Net.
Tara, thanks for covering those. Just as a point of reference, Tara and I have helped over 1,500 families over the last 20 years apply and qualify for Medicaid and protect assets. During that same time period, or starting around 2009, 2010, we started helping with VA. We've helped over 500 families protect assets and qualify for benefits. So Medicaid and VA are great resources, but you have to understand what the rules are and what it takes to qualify. So the fifth option is one that may surprise you. You know, most people know about life insurance. You get a life insurance policy. It's designed to provide a death benefit to loved ones when you go to heaven. Well, many life insurance policies today have a long-term feature that's built into them. And the example is you can add on a feature or a rider where you can withdraw a certain percentage of the death benefit monthly to pay for long term care. So let's say I have a $100,000 death benefit policy and it has a 5% withdrawal feature. I could be withdrawing 5% of the death benefit on a monthly basis to cover long term care. These withdrawals are tax free. And that's important because you want all of your dollars going to help paying for the long term care benefits you're receiving. Uh, if you haven't used up all of the death benefit, then whatever remaining death benefits in the policy goes to your heirs when you pass away. Now, the downside to life insurance is you have to go through normal underwriting or medical scrutiny. And so some people that have health conditions can't qualify for a life insurance policy to pay for long-term care. Another option is what we call asset multiplying products. These have only been around for the last 7 or 8 years. And what these products do, you fund it with a chunk of money, let's say $100,000, a single pay. You put in 100,000, or you put that 100,000 in over a time period, say 10 years. What the company does, they immediately double or even more than double the benefit. So in this case, we put 100 in, and suddenly I have 250,000 that can be spent on a long-term care event. The withdrawals are tax-free, just like life insurance. Your funds are spent first. So let's say we put in 100,000, we put in 100, they up it to 250, and I go to the nursing home and I draw down 100. My money is spent first, and then we get into the company's money, if you will. The nice feature of asset multiplying products, residual funds go to your heirs. So let's say I put 100 in, they raise it to 250. Maybe I never use my benefit. Well, my heirs are going to get that 100,000 back. Another advantage to these products, they have lighter underwriting, which means it's easier for more people to qualify for a product like this. If you're interested in this, give us a holler. We can run a proposal, show you how you could use some of your retirement savings as a shield against future long-term care. Another option, I mentioned earlier that Tara and I use annuities in our practice to help people create guaranteed income in retirement. If you read my book, we have a chapter called The Power of Income, and it explains how having more guaranteed income not only gives people better financial results, but also gives them more peace of mind in retirement. They know that their money's going to last as long as they do. Well, many of the products we write today have a long-term care enhancement. It's called a doubler. And what that does is, let's say I'm drawing $2,000 a month income from my annuity, and I have a long-term care event. They double the income for up to 5 years. So 2,000 becomes 4,000. I add that to what I've got in my Social Security, maybe my other income sources, and now I have enough income to pay for my long-term care. Uh, your funds are spent first, and residual funds that are inside the annuity go to your heirs. So let's say I fund my policy, I start drawing down income, but there's still money left in the policy when I pass away. Well, once again, those funds go to my heirs. There's no underwriting. What do I mean by that? Well, anybody can purchase an annuity. Unless you're in a skilled nursing home today, then they don't let you buy the policy at that point. But anybody that's living at home can generally get an annuity, add on this income feature, and then if they need care, trigger the benefit and it pays out for up to 5 years. And our last option is one you've probably heard about. It's called long term care insurance. This is another commercial product that's been around for about 20 years, maybe even a little longer. And these policies are really suited for younger, healthy individuals who are looking down the road and saying, hey, I want to protect my assets. Today's policies are called integrated policies. What does that mean? It means wherever I'm receiving care, whether it's at home, adult daycare, assisted living, skilled nursing, it pays out. The original long-term care policies back in the uh, 1990s were pretty much nursing home-based policies. That was wonderful if you ended up in a nursing home, but most people want to receive care at home, and today's policies provide coverage wherever you need care. The eligibility requirements are much like Medicaid, 2 of 6 activities of daily living or substantial cognitive impairment, where I have to live in a protected environment and be under the supervision of a doctor. So, how does a long term care insurance policy work? Well, essentially, what you're creating is a bucket of money that you can draw against and use to pay for long term care. Well, how do you determine the size of the bucket? It's based on two criteria. One is the maximum daily or monthly draw rate that I can take out every month of the policy to pay for care and the term of coverage. So here's an example. Let's say I've got a $4,000 monthly draw rate on my policy, and I'm able to draw against it for 36 months at that maximum rate. That means my bucket has 144,000 in it that can be used to pay for care. Uh, Most policies today have elimination periods. What is that? Well, it's like the deductible on your car insurance. If you have a minor scratch on your car, most people have like a $500 deductible, which means I get a minor scratch, I'm not going to file a claim. But if I have a real fender bender and my car is messed up, then I will file a claim. Well, the same operates with long term care insurance. Most have what's called a deductible or an elimination period. Typically, it's 90 days, which means I start needing care. I pay for the first 90 days of care, and then the policy kicks in. On many of the policies Tara and I write, we eliminate the elimination period on home care. Why? Because that's where most care is initially rendered, and we don't want people having to wait. They trigger the benefit, they immediately get a benefit. The second important feature is having inflation protection. We know that nursing homes, assisted living, care costs are always going up. So the policies we write have an inflation factor built in that increases that monthly amount, which then increases the bucket size. So over time, my bucket keeps up with the rising cost of long term care. There's a whole series of other riders that you can add on. Not going to go into details. If this is of interest, give us a call. We're happy to explain it and talk more about how long-term care insurance might be a fit. But as you see, we've got many different options here. These long-term care policies can come in one of two flavors. Originally, all the policies were individual, which means if you had a couple, dad had a policy, mom had a policy, but if dad passed away before tapping, his benefit walked out the door. Today, shared policies work very well for couples, and this is what my wife and I have. We have a shared policy that lets my wife use all the benefit, I use all the benefit, or like the old malt shop with two straws, we can share the benefit bucket and cover both of our care needs. Picking a long-term care company has gotten a lot simpler. And I say that because many companies have gotten out of this market. Why did they get out? Because they found out that people are living longer and tapping benefits. So today there are far fewer companies to choose from. But if you are going to look at a long-term care policy, you want to pick a company that has hopefully a history of not raising the premiums on in-force policies. Another factor that affects long-term care was what's called the partnership plan. Texas became the eighth or ninth state. I don't know how many are now in partnership, but this is an interesting feature that makes it good to live in Texas. And it actually doubles the value of your long-term care policy, but doesn't increase the price. Well, how do we do that? Well, the policy has a bucket of money. if I tap that bucket and exhaust it, the state of Texas has made a partnership agreement with all people that own long-term care policies. And remember earlier, Tara talked about how couples or single people can protect assets and qualify for Medicaid. Those rules are true today, but Tara and I don't know what the rules will be 20 years from now. Maybe they will take away some of those asset preservation strategies. But this is one where the state has agreed that if Bill spends down his $144,000 bucket of money, I can guarantee today that I will be able to protect $144,000 of my estate and be eligible for Medicaid. So it essentially improves the value of a long-term care policy. Well, that's a lot of different options, Tara, in a very short period of time. Uh, you know, this is one of those topics when we used to do in-face workshops that people would kind of put their hand, cross their hands, and go, "I don't want to talk about that. That doesn't feel very much fun." Thinking about becoming, in poor health or cognitively impaired, kind of scares a lot of people, and it does. But this is a risk we all face, and it's one that if we don't plan for, then it's more like a Chinese fire drill where we're trying to help people who enter an assisted living center or enter a skilled nursing home and immediately are desperate to try to find solutions. We're happy to work with you under those terms, but we sure would like the opportunity to also help people pre-plan for long-term care. So, Tara, do we have any questions?
Let me see. Well, there is one question. When should I come in and see you? I mean, do we do this now? Do we wait until we've had an event? Like what?
Well, both those times work. I tend to believe, and if you read my book, and by the way, you're going to get a PDF of my book just for attending today. And if after you get that, if you'd like a printed copy of the book, a free printed copy, more than happy to mail you one. If you'll email me your mailing address after you get a copy of the book, my email is bill@srctexas.com. Happy to mail you a copy of the book. But what the book really presents is pre-planning always beats crisis planning. And I think as we approach retirement with many risks, inflation, rising taxes, long-term care events, stock market volatility, low interest rates, there's just an awful lot of factors that all of us are having to contend with. And my book does a real good job of addressing a broad range of risks that you and I will face as we get into retirement. So, Tara, any other questions?
No, I think that's it. That we covered a lot of information today. And of course, we'll have this webinar up in the next 24 hours on our website, and I will send you a recording later this afternoon. You're welcome to pass it on to whoever you feel needs to know this information, and it will be available, forever.
Yeah, one more thing, Tara. Let's remind everybody that next week we've got a brand new, fresh topic that we've never covered before. We call it David versus Goliath. And in a nutshell, if you've ever been the victim of some large institution, a bank, credit union, insurance company, brokerage house, governmental agency, tune in next week. Over the years, Tara and I have found the soft spot, the way to take on Goliath without spending millions of dollars in legal fees. There are ways to accomplish what you want to get justice without going broke. So tune in next week for David versus Goliath.
All right, and that's it. And thank you very much. We will see you next week.